USC Gaucho.
Another huge supporter, USC Gaucho. He's a big supporter of the channel. I want to trust in Coach Lincoln Riley, but why does he abandon the run? Had he let Lloyd do his thing, the game would have had a different outcome. It's that simple. Well, I mean, people are throwing a lot on the fact that Lloyd dropped the ball a couple times. No Rocky, I guess we could say. You dropped that thing. It's, that turnover, not that it matters, but the timing of that turnover and to fumble once, but to fumble twice in a game, that's rough. But even Austin was having a good game. But if you take away that first big run, that 45-yard he ran off, which was a brilliant run, it did seem, that they went away for it after the first quarter. I mean, this is one of the top rushing defenses in the country, and USC's offensive line was getting after it and then doing well, and they were running the ball. But then they did begin to struggle a little bit in the run game, and then they abandoned it. Matt, you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, you could make the argument that once USC did begin to struggle in the middle third of the game running the ball, that Riley did abandon it. I think that's a fair point. I would also say, though, that the pass protection for Caleb Williams was so much better than it was against Notre Dame and also against Arizona. And I think Riley wanted to get his Heisman Trophy winning quarterback some chances to throw down the field, and he was missing throws. Like Zachariah Branch was open like 20 yards down the field, Caleb running to his right. That's a throw Caleb Williams should make. Like if we're talking about the number one pick in the next year's draft, that's a throw he should make. So Caleb Williams also not hitting his marks had a lot to do with this. Like I think it's a fair critique to say that Lincoln abandoned the run too quickly, but also if Caleb Williams plays a better game, we're probably not having the same conversation. Want to segue into another thing, and just want to nail this down very clearly, just in case people think that this is just a fire Grinch issue, and if we fire Grinch, that solves it. No, I want to be very clear here. It has to be Grinch and Benny Wiley. Benny Wiley, strength coach, he's not measuring up. I did a media hit with Salt Lake City Radio last week, KSL Sports, and the host there told me, Kyle Whittingham's strength program is elite. It's top notch. And, that's how he gets these 2- and 3-star recruits to play at a 4- or 5-star level. That's why he's 3-0 against USC and Lincoln Riley. It's why Utah, owns the line of scrimmage for most of a game. When it goes against USC, the Trojans have their moments, but over 60 minutes, Utah shows itself to be the tougher team at the line of scrimmage. I know Larry Pilgrim would readily agree with that. So you see the gap between a team that has an elite strength coach and an elite conditioning program and a team which has a mediocre strength coach and a mediocre conditioning program. So it's not just a Grinch thing. It's Grinch and Benny Wiley. We have to do both. Lincoln Riley has to do both. Doing one without the other, it's not a solution. You have to do both. And if USC can replace those two positions with high-quality hires, we could really have something. You could talk about other position coaches and other assistants on the staff, but it really has to be Grinch and Benny Wiley. Both and, not either or. If we do those two things, we can really think about an improved program down the line.
We got another one. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Tim.
Sorry. Super chat from Adam. Guys, how do you think USC fares in the Big Ten? But you got an hour? Because that's going to take a little while.
Exactly.
On that one. But listen, $10 super chat. I'll give you my elevator speech on it. I'm thinking if USC lands one of these top name defensive coordinators, I think we're probably going to end up in the market for. Then things might look better. Maybe recruiting will pick up. But if we don't toughen up our defense, it's going to be. Then again, hold on, you guys. I'll ask you this as well, Mark. The Big Ten is not necessarily known for offenses that we're seeing here that we're facing week in and week out. I'm wondering what it might look like. And I get it. Physical, pound you, run the rock, will run right through you. But you know what? Actually, this team is kind of built for that kind of an offense. Whereas it doesn't seem like on the back end where we're getting torched a lot, where we're able to keep up with some of the athletes and the quarterbacks that we're seeing in the Pac-12.
Adam is telling us in the chat that Big Ten players are slower. Well, I do think that that the NFL values speed, and the Big Ten supplies the NFL with the second most players of any conference in America by far. So let's keep that in mind. Now, I will say as well, and Tim knows what my elevator pitch is going to be, or at least part of it. I believe that over the last 15 or 20 years, well, I don't necessarily just believe it. It's fact that Ohio State's been the most consistent winner in college football. And they're going to be obviously a something to deal with. Michigan looks like the best team in college football, but let's see them actually play someone. Tim also knows that I have said this many times. When USC is right, and this is coming from an Ohio State guy who believes that's arguably the best program in history consistently, but when USC's got it right, right coach, right administration that's focused on doing things right and being a power, and they're laser focused, USC's highs just blast right through the ceiling. We're talking greatest teams of all time come from USC. So USC could step into the Big Ten right now, and I know you guys want to win championships. That probably there is work to be done there. But this team, even at its with all of its issues and faults and warts right now, could walk into the Big Ten and do just fine. It wouldn't win the championship, but would be a major force to reckon with right now. So the right coach in place, and that might be Lincoln Riley with some help on defense, but USC will be fine in the Big Ten. Now let's understand the conference is going to be so loaded. Somebody has to lose games. There is rough sledding for somebody who's used to winning. There's just too many teams that have winning programs and winning track records. Somebody's got to lose these games. So it could be a rough ride for like a UCLA, or if Oregon and Washington hit one of those two or both hit a down patch that they've hit over the last different times, 15 and 20 years. And then, of course, as Tim's referring to Iowa, Wisconsin, they're going to have to be much better. I think it's one of the reasons why Wisconsin said goodbye to Paul Chryst. You won 72% of your games, and that doesn't get anybody fired, but it's a new era in college football, and we've got to catch one of the hot commodities because we got to contend in this new world. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
Well, and this is why USC has to ditch Benny Wiley as strength coach, because USC will need the strongest, most rugged, tough, muscular line play to be able to do well in the Big Ten. And we all watched these Big Ten games over the weekend. These were pigskin versions of root canal. With Iowa, Minnesota, 12-10, Nebraska, Northwestern, 17-9. I mean, Penn State, just couldn't move an inch against Ohio State. Scored only 6 points. That waved off defensive touchdown. That was as close as Penn State came to scoring a touchdown all day long. There are so many really bad offenses in the Big Ten, like Iowa 15-6 over Wisconsin the week before, playing that 12-10 game against Minnesota. So, like USC has this opportunity to do really well in the Big Ten, but we're not seeing the level of line play from USC. But like, if you get that piece fixed, if you get a tough line on both sides of the ball, and that comes from your strength and conditioning program, then USC, Lincoln Riley can surround the line play with those portal pieces. One of the things that Tim Prangley's dad mentioned over the weekend was how John McKay built from the middle out, inside out. You start with the middle of your line on both sides, especially defense, but really you start with the middle of the line and you build out your team from there. If you can be strong up the middle, if you can be strong up front, then you can work with that. You can't have the flash and dash on the perimeter without anything up front to supplement that. But if you have your lines in place, then you can add the skill pieces, in the portal, and you could have something really special. But right now, USC doesn't have that line play. But if hypothetically, if USC can get elite line play back, And it's not looking likely. That's sad to say. But if USC can, by firing a strength coach and getting an elite replacement for Benny Wiley, then like USC is not going to be exposed by a lot of Big Ten teams the way Pac-12 teams have been able to. Like, Iowa makes Utah's offense look like the 1989 49ers. Like Iowa's offense, makes some of these other, middle tier Pac-12 offenses, look like, Steve Young to Jerry Rice, and with Ricky Waters coming out of the backfield and all that. So like there's
Dwight
an
Clark
opportunity
in the middle.
There's an opportunity for USC to do extremely well, to be better than pretty much everyone other than Ohio State and Michigan, and to always be right there in the top tier of the Big Ten. But without the line play, it's not going to happen.
Trojans block out. Oh, sorry, Matt. Sorry, Mark.
Just 2 quick points to make. Adam, thank you so much for all the contributions, but you stated in the chat that Penn State's slow. Okay, understand that this Penn State defense, mark it down, they will produce more first and second round NFL players off this defense than anybody in the country, except maybe Georgia, because after all those guys filter through, they will flood the draft as well. Maybe not necessarily this year, but in future seasons. And number 2, Iowa's easy to make fun of, and I make fun of them every day. It's just the offensive metrics are just laughable. And so I do. And there's more videos all over the place that I've posted, just putting that into context as best I can. It's just ridiculous. But let's understand that they do, for as bad as they are on offense, they do excel exceedingly on defense. And one thing that's forgotten, special teams. Their special teams is ridiculously good. And I know that is challenged by the bad offenses, and the argument is challenged by the bad offenses in the Western Division of the Big Ten, and that is true partially. But when Iowa plays outside the conference in postseason competition, look at the run that Kirk Ferentz has had. They usually win. When they go outside the conference and play SEC teams, they have a better than 500 record. USC 2019 knows that.
Yes,
guys.
That was
circling back to the Big Ten physicality and stuff. I'm obsessed with recruiting almost to like a sickness. You guys do yourselves a favor. If you are worried about USC's, I would tell you, Adam, go look at the huddle film for guys like Lonnie Noah and Micah Banuelos. These guys are maulers, brawlers, tough sons of bitches. They're going to make us nasty. Then you have some prototype frames and guys like Elijah Page and Tobias Raymond. The freshman class that we have, not highly ranked. I mean, the highest ranked guy I think was probably Elijah Page, 4 stars. But these guys are nasty. You watch their film, absolutely insane. And they have 1 year in the books here. Matt's kind of jumped off the wire. He's bought into the Oklahoma message that he's a yoga instructor. He's soft, all sort of stuff. I'm not quite there yet. Again, I saw huge changes in the bodies of these guys that came on to the spring game from last year. Some guys were pretty skinny in secondary that actually, bulked up. Linemen looked bigger. I'm looking at our defensive line guys, and you watch our defensive line, they're throwing dudes around. They were throwing Utah around in that second half. Everyone's mocking. They're thinking about the longer it takes. If you look later in the game, USC, even on that last drive, their problems were probably a bit too aggressive, but they were throwing Utah Utes around. We talk about how tough Utah is. I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet. All the Sooner fans are going to pile on right now. But those guys, those 5 guys I just named, Alani Noah got a start as a freshman. We had some injuries. These guys are tough, and they will be supplemented with guys in the portal. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay on the lines. Are we there? No. Year and a half in, but the USC is not going to walk in. They know where they're playing. When in Rome, it's going to change. You're going to have to change with the style of football. But what we will bring is I do think we'll bring some speed. And traditionally, Mark, us here on the West Coast, when we've gone to Big 12, Big 10, sorry, we have shown a speed difference. And I would tell you guys, though, don't talk about Penn State being slow, because I've seen their running backs, and those guys are anything but slow. So It'll be interesting to see what we do, but I think we're going to do okay. Let's not worry about the lines because we have a great freshman class.
And the NFL production doesn't tell us everything, but it tells us a lot. It tells us the top end of the conference. And right now, the Big Ten has 110 more NFL players than the Pac-12 does.
Yeah. Well, Mark, we have been down for about 5 years in the Pac-12, as you've said time and time again. So when USC's down, our NFL numbers go down as well. When UCLA's down, our NFL numbers go down. But yeah, I agree.